All right,
Investigate.
everyone.
Go ahead. I thought you were going to start now.
Oh, they're telling me to stop.
Oh.
Now we're going to look into why chasing red flags leads to love. This is something that I'm honestly very interested in.
Are you really?
I am, because, like, I am a total red flag chaser.
Oh.
I am toxic as hell. And I love toxicity. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
You know, I live for the drama. I think it comes from a place of trauma that I need a little toxicity in my relationship to thrive. You know,
we can be a little
and
toxic.
that's what I love about our
but
relationship,
in like a good way.
is that our toxicness together leads to like
passion.
Yes, for real though, it really does.
I feel like, because I've never looked for toxicity in my life for a relationship. So I think that I feel like there are people who will say, oh, I need toxicity in my relationship because they're in a toxic relationship that's bad for them and they need to cope. For us, like, we have a little toxicity, but we have really healthy communication. We almost always fight productively and grow together. Like, we do really well. So I just wanted to be clear. I don't want to signal to people that, like, you're in a horrible relationship and tell you, like, yeah, that's good. It's probably not. Like, when we say we're toxic, it's like little things, but overall, like, we're super healthy.
100%. And I think that everybody is a little toxic, and like because I've had toxicity in past relationships, and I think that those were almost more of a cope, because those came from a place of like, oh, like, I'm not good enough, like, I deserve A, B, and C. And then I chose like toxic partners and stuff like that. And then, like, with us, like, we kind of just came together, and like I would say, like, our toxicity is like our, like, I guess, like, negative traits, but our negative traits like work with each other.
I wonder if it's toxicity or if it's just the fact that, because people say, like, it's boring not being toxic. I wonder if it's not really toxicity. It's just disagreement.
I think just no person is perfect. Every person is a little shitty, and you're shitty in different ways.
But we also disagree with things, and we talk about it, and we express it, and we don't just deal with it and, like, let resentment build up.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think that everybody is toxic to different degrees.
Yeah, well, it could be a toxic trait to not speak up for yourself.
Yeah,
too,
and like, depending on what area you would call yourself toxic in, might make you more or less toxic.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
You know?
Yeah, let's hit this video. So I think you're gonna like this content creator in general. Dr. K, Healthy Gamer GG. Let's go.
We're going to talk about how red flags Today, we're going to talk about how red flags can actually lead to successful relationships, and how green flags can actually sabotage successful relationships. So I first noticed this as a psychiatrist when I was working with my patients.
See, that's one thing I think you're gonna like about this guy. He's not a fucking idiot.
Well, now that he brought this up, is he gonna be looking at the trend that has been going around where people are like, oh, my red flags, my green flags, my beige flags? Because then, yeah, like, looking at red flags is good, because if, like, a red flag that pops up that you're able to deal with and, like, work through that, then that's good to deal with those red flags, rather than having a bunch of, like...
Yeah, it's good to be able to see people's red flags so that you know if you're congruent with that person or not. Yeah, I agree. Okay.
And some of them would have really successful marriages, long-term relationships. And as I asked them a little bit about how did you get into this relationship? You know, how did your relationship start? I was stunned by how many red flags were at the beginning of very successful long-term relationships.
Shit.
we had a lot of red flags. I don't want to get into the specifics, but I used to be polyamorous. And, like, I think that it was the person I was with.
This man is a red flag.
Okay, relax. The relationship I was in before this, I think that we used, like, open relationships and polyamory to subsidize a failed relationship. And so, like, it was just not a good relationship. We were both bad to each other. You know, obviously each of us will think the other one was worse. But I'm always right. So, but, you know, and it just kind of was like there was a lot of red flags, I guess, for me in our relationship there.
There's just it's incredible. Like, if I judged you as my partner based on your relationships, and same with me, if you judged me based on my relationship, like, you would never thought that we would be in such a successful relationship that we are right now.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, we've talked about your exes and your relationship with them too. Like, I have toxic qualities. Some of my toxic qualities are, like, I'm over affirming in, like, ways where I'm like, oh, you're struggling at work, come out, work, quit your job,
I'll take care of you.
Not a good. It's like actually not a good quality.
I think that we both have daddy issues.
Yeah, true. I don't have a dad. You don't have a dad, and then ours manifests differently. Like I want to be the dad, and
I need a daddy. You know.
Yeah. Sounds weird when you say it like that, but I feel like makes sense.
And even in my own life, I know my wife certainly had a red flag or two. I was basically like a whole parade. I was like addicted to video games, failing out of college, no job after
Those are the red flags. Those aren't too bad.
2 years, being supported.
I mean, I did drop out of school. I was an accelerated, like an honor student, and I dropped out of school because I came off my Ritalin and I got addicted to World of Warcraft. That fucking crazy.
By my girlfriend, was going nowhere very rapidly in life. And yet we're still like happily married with 2 kids.
Kind of true. Like when I met you, I was like at a dead end job and I wasn't trying to build myself up. I was like a miserable. And I was just stewing in my own misery. And then we got together and then all of a sudden we were having conversations about me either getting promotions or going back to school. Before I became successful on social media, I was going back to school for computer science. Because I was with you and you kind of motivated me to do that.
Well, I was thinking about that while we did our budget because remember when you decided you wanted to go back to school?
And I did go back.
Yeah, but I had the money to make your first payment. And I paid for that semester for that first portion.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Thanks.
So that we didn't have to take out. You didn't have to take out a loan.
Interesting.
You remember that?
No,
and I was like, thank
crazy.
fucking God I did that.
How crazy. Things turned out pretty well though. Thankfully, I'm able to do this, but it's interesting.
And we've been together for like almost 20 years at this point. And so how does that work? Because there's this idea that if there's a red flag in a relationship, you should just dump them and run. If you're ready to take the next step on your mental health.
Yeah, and I think that is an interesting conversation in and of itself, is that there's this fine line between like there's a conversation about marriage and staying with somebody and quote unquote enduring. And I think it's a fine line between working through problems versus forcing the relationship. And it's hard to determine that for every individual. We know people who are forcing the relationship. And then there's times where you need to work through problems. And it's impossible unless you sit down and really talk to somebody what the difference is. Because when you see people say like, hey, you shouldn't just leave your marriage just because it's a little unhappy, they might be right. You should see a couples counselor and figure out your shit. Because I one thing that really resonated with me is that one topic we talked about a while ago where the guy was like, if you fall in love at one point, like I think that you're always in love kind of, and you could work through that. And I was like, that's interesting. I don't know if I fully agree with that. But, I think that you can work through it if you just started your relationship a year ago and it's not working out. Probably. But there's a certain amount of compromise you have to make. There's going to be, and that comes with dealing with stuff you may not necessarily love. That's ideal. But that's versus like somebody who's like super toxic and like destroying your life kind of a thing. And it's just a fine line between it. So you kind of have to figure out where that is.
You just remind me, side note, there was like a settling video you wanted to talk about too.
Yeah, I don't know what happened with that. It was going to be the same conversation that we're having though. But yeah, if I find it.
Health journey, check out Dr. K's guide. It's an immersive resource that distills over 20 years of my experience laid out in a way that is tailored to your needs. So if you're ready to better understand your mind and take control of it, check out the link in the description below. So it turns out that when there's a red flag early on in a relationship, it leads to problems. And generally speaking, we think problems in relationships are bad.
I think problems can be good. Because if you have to overcome a problem in your relationship, it's a defining moment of whether you're going to overcome it or you're just going to regular come it. You're either going to overcome the problem or you're just not going to engage with the problem and you're going to fail. And that's a litmus test.
Problems sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say problems
or opportunities
are only a problem if you can't communicate with each other.
Yeah, if you can't overcome that problem.
Like if you're able to communicate and work through with it, they're not problems, they're just things that happen.
Oh, you fight and you grow through your fights. You have healthy fights that you join, like you grow together. That's what I'm saying. Like if I were to talk about like past things that we've worked through, I wouldn't say like we have a problem, we have these problems in our relationship. I would say like, oh, like these things happened and we worked through them. Yeah,
or these are things that like we work on in our relationship.
They're opportunities to try to to grow through those particular problems.
Yeah. Right? But if you look at what leads to successful relationships over time, it is the ability to navigate through problems.
Yeah.
And so one really interesting thing happens in red flags in early relationships. If you voice this problem to your partner 1 month in, 2 months in, 3 months in, then you get to know something that's very, very important that will indicate the long-term health or illness of a relationship, which is how do we navigate problems.
True.
And
I think we do an extraordinary job navigating our problems. Just saying.
Yeah, I was trying to take a minute to go back to early in our relationship, and I feel that from very early on, I remember our first fight. Our first fight was whatever our Snapchat score
I remember we have a Snapchat score of like 1,000 million or something, but we had it going for a while, and then we got mad at each other, so we didn't snap. I don't remember what the fight was.
I remember what
this
the
is
fight
the problem
was.
with fucking women, is that women remember everything. With 1,647 is our score. We had like another 100 or so on there, but this is the problem with women. They remember everything. Why? What was the fight about? Do you want to talk about it, or is it too personal? I don't remember it. You're telling to a fucking stranger.
It doesn't matter. The fight was that you were treating me like a girlfriend, but telling me that I wasn't a girlfriend. So I was like, fine, then I'm not your girlfriend.
Okay.
Like, I was like whatever. Like, then we're not doing whatever.
Okay.
And then you told me to still, it was a baby night.
Yeah.
So you still told me to, it wasn't a baby night yet, but it was like one of the baby nights.
It was the nights that we hung out, yeah.
We used to call our date nights baby night, because I'm baby. And I went to your job, or you told me to still come to your job, and you gave me your credit card to pay for Popeyes.
Yeah, I think you had cigarettes that time.
And I was like, no, I don't know if that was that night.
That was when I found out.
Oh, was it? Yeah. Oh, yeah, you came into my car and I had the pack of cigarettes out.
I was like, oh, you smoke cigarettes?
But you gave me your card still to go to Popeyes, and I remember I pissed you off because you paid for Popeyes, but I used my card to buy myself a drink there.
Because you're being passive aggressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then we found out that my wife likes to do passive aggressive jabs.
But I was gonna say that was like our first fight.
Yeah.
And like, you finished that fight. You were kind of like, enough. You admitted that we were like girlfriend boyfriendy, but you were also like we're not fighting. You're a very like, we're not fighting person over little things, and I think that's the difference for us.
Yeah.
Because I will fight anybody over anything, and I think that's like was like a big problem in my last relationship, is that I'm a bitch, and like if there's some people that can't put me in my place, and you do it in a way that's not like aggressive.
No,
you just kind of like shut it down.
Yeah, it's not like I don't like put her in a place like, shut the fuck up. I just won't engage with it sometimes, or I'll be like, you're being ridiculous. You're being ridiculous right now. Like, you need to chill out, and I'll give her time to be like.
You did it today. What did? Because I got in the car and it irritated me.
It did. Oh, yes. Okay, so my back is still in a little bit of pain. Just recognize
which I didn't know.
Okay, that's fair.
Is it really?
Yeah, a little bit. That's like when we're on our walk, I was happy to go home because like I was feeling a little achy. But anyway, so so this is what she said, and this is one of the things that I do now. My wife, I was in a little bit of a mood, and we went outside to go in the car. She's like, "Oh, we need all the bottles." So I said, "Do you need me to help you with the bottles?" And she said, "No, I could do it." And I knew that you were being a little bit of an asshole because she plays this game when she's mad at me. I don't need no man. She becomes a fucking Hulk.
Well, I was irritated because I wanted you to come do the fucking bottles with me.
I asked you. Oh, we both forgot, and I said, "Oh, do you want me to help you?" You said no, and you was like, "I can do it myself." I said, "Okay." I'm not going to fight you on that. You want to be passive aggressive and you want to hurt yourself. I'll let you do that. Okay. Oh no. Okay. So I grabbed your phone. I grabbed your phone. I grabbed your backpack, and I grabbed the keys, and I put them in the car on your seat. And then I sat in the car and I waited for you to get in the car. They were bottles. They weren't very heavy.
No, they weren't.
And then you got in the car, and she had to move the backpack off the seat. So what did you say?
I said, really?
You said, really? And I said, what was that? I said, really what? Is it because I put your stuff there? You're like, yeah. I said, okay. Like, why?
No, you said like, oh, so you're being passive aggressive.
I said, oh, so you're being passive aggressive? And you're like, yeah. I was like, okay. And I just started driving away.
It fucking made me so angry.
Well, I'm gonna call it out. It's just like, you're being passive aggressive. Like, I get it. I understand. Like, I got it. Then I think, what did I said something in response.
I don't remember.
Oh no, that's what I said. I said if I did that to you, you would have been livid.
Yeah. And I said really like that to you.
If I said that to you, you would have been livid. And I just let you know that I communicate that. And you're like, yeah, okay, you're right. And you were like, okay, fine. Sorry.
I was still angry, but I was like, I'm sorry.
She apologized. And by the way, like I do the same. I do things to her that are also like that. But I remember that. You know. But it's fun. We deal with each other particularly well. You know,
just about all of my patients is when there was a problem early on in the relationship, these two people either decide then and there, okay, are we like willing to work through this? Do we have the skills to work through it? Do we have the desire to work through it? And then you kind of navigate in that relationship. You're sort of stress testing the relationship with a red flag really early on. And then that leads to actually very good prognostic signs. You know, in my case, I sort of got my life together when my wife, girlfriend was like, you know, hey, like, this is not working. This is the way I can support you. This is what I need to do. And could I swallow my pride?
That was so much of me. Like, I was in such a worse spot than you. I feel like immaturity wise, and like your impact on me in the relationship was so profoundly positive. Like, you were, when we first started dating, you were working, doing an internship, and going to school at the same time.
Yeah.
And I was working a dead-end job, and I was miserable. And I was very like sex focused, like just talking to girls and stuff. And then we started dating, and then like slowly that rubbed off on me in a positive way. You know, when you got your full-time job as a behavioral specialist, I actually got a promotion on my job, and it didn't turn out. The company sucked. So we took when we talked about it, I remember we talked about it on the phone for like hours. I was like, I don't like this. I'm miserable. I'm not being respected. My boss is shit. But the conversation was like, what am I going to do instead? And that's why I was like, okay, I'm going to go to school full-time. I'm going to go to school part-time and work full-time because I need to get out of the situation. I mean, I'm almost 30. I'm miserable. And that's the conversation we had. I would have never had that conversation. That's one of the things that really drew me to you, because the person I was with was not supportive in that capacity.
No.
You were very supportive. You were very positive for me. I was supportive in that way to them, but it wasn't reciprocated. And like, that's what motivated me to be a better, more productive person. And if it wasn't doing content creation, which I got very lucky on, it would have been a computer science type of thing, or I would have gotten another job, and I would have tried to go somewhere that I could work up.
Yeah.
So like, you had a very positive impact on me.
I also think one of the things, I don't know if like this means anything to you in our relationship, is that, I mean, I look back now and I'm like, damn, the things I was doing, like, what the hell was I doing them for based on our situation? But I'm glad that I did.
Yeah.
But like, I am a very, I guess, like, playhouse person. And I'm very like, I don't hook up. I'm like, we're boyfriend, girlfriend.
Yeah, for me, boyfriend, girlfriend means a lot.
Yeah.
The more than it means, like, for the same thing with friendship. Like, people are like, oh, well, I'm not friends with people until I hit a point where it's more intimate, not sexually, but where it's more intimate. Like, if you say, oh, we're friends, I don't really have any friends. But I also have a higher standard of what a friend is to me than other people. Like, I have acquaintances.
Yeah.
And like, boyfriend and girlfriend, that's like 3 months in. Like, I don't want to, like, boyfriend and girlfriend for most people is like, oh, we're kind of doing our thing. To me, it's one step before marriage.
Yeah.
Anyway, continue. Sorry.
Well, for me, like, the way I date is like very serious. So like, even like when we were boyfriend, girlfriend, like, I was supporting you like a wife would, like, and that was, for us in the time we spent together, it was always like, what are we gonna do? And like, I was like cooking for you.
Yep.
He, like, where he worked was close to where I lived, so I would bring him food. Stop it. But I would also like make him lunches that he could come to my house and get, so that way he had like a healthy choice to eat and stuff. Like, I feel it's like weird, like, our relationship was so like adult to me, and it was like, it was an expectation I set for myself when I started dating you, because even like in terms of farting, I remember like one of the first nights you were here, I looked at you and I psyched myself out, but I looked at you and I was like, we're both adults, right? And you were like, yeah. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to my living room and fart, and then I'm gonna come right back. And I know that's something so stupid and so cringy, because we're talking about
fart
farting,
is a big
right?
deal.
But that's like, to admit that you're farting to like a guy,
yeah,
you know, that's like a big thing.
Deal.
And I honestly think that that's set up like, okay, like, I'm communicating and I'm gonna be a grown-up,
like, hey, I gotta go fart, and like, this is something I'm embarrassed about, so I'm gonna go walk in the other room and fart. And then she came back in the room, and I got up to go pee, and I went in that room and went that's what I did after she farted, and I just had to get the first whiff. You know, you really got to know.
No, but I feel like you did probably do something like, oh, could I smell it or something?
I probably said it as a joke. Yeah.
But no, I think that, I don't know, our relationship was it's just different.
It's a good relationship. I think it's healthy. I think it's what people should aspire to have. You know, I'm not trying to jerk it off. We have a very healthy communication method. We've been through a lot together, and we fight very well, and we grow in our fights. It's very rare that we have unproductive fights. And when we do, like, they become like problems that we both feel self-conscious about, to a point where we sit down and really have a conversation.
Yeah.
And actually make an effort to change for the sake of this person. And so the really interesting thing is that red flags basically stress test our problem-solving capability, which is a really, really good prognostic factor for a successful relationship long term. Because if you've got someone who's got a red flag and they're willing to actually change, that's someone that you may actually want to spend the rest of your life with. Now let's talk a little bit about green flags, because there's also this idea that, oh, you know, like the better this person is, I'm looking for the perfect partner. And the more perfect they are, the more successful the relationship will be. But I want y'all to just like pay attention to this for a second, right? And think about data. Think about the people that you know who are happily married and the people that you know that are unhappily single or whatever.
I talked to you about this the other day, but I want to say it again because I feel like it's somewhat relevant. Do you remember? Yeah, I think it was yesterday. I told you that I watched a video about it from a marriage counselor, or excuse me, a divorce lawyer about divorce, and he got divorced himself. And what I actually respect about him is that he loves his ex-wife not as a partner, but as the mother of his children and as a person. And I can appreciate that. But they talked about how there was a moment where they both realized they were not in love. And it's when they were hanging out with a friend at Disney and they realized they were really in love. Like something had happened and they were like, oh, we're just going to kind of walk around for a little bit. And they like held hands and like touched each other in a way that was like super like nice and firm,
intimate,
and intimate. And we do that a lot. And people, like, you even say, like, people know, you say to me that people in your family are like, oh, you guys really love each other.
Yeah.
Because I just like touch my wife in a way, like, you know, we might just be like this morning, it was last night or this morning, I was on my phone and you had your back to me and we were like kind of cuddling and I just started scratching your back. It's like those moments. And I feel like seeing those healthy relationships destroy unhealthy relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that that's interesting. I think that seeing a healthy relationship can destroy yours, because it's like, why don't we have that? You know, because I feel like there is like a level, like, you know, you get what I'm saying.
Happy relationships, and think about what their standards are, right? So when someone's looking for the perfect person, they need to do this, they need to do this, they need to do this.
I was just looking
for
pussy.
What does that actually do to their relationship?
And I found a perfect one. Let me tell you. Woo! That's the biggest green flag.
Prospects. It has really interesting sort of implications for what they end up with. The first problem is that sometimes they find what they're looking for. And why is that a problem? Well, so if I'm looking for like these 6 things and these...
Wait, that's interesting, because I feel like people will sometimes look for something and you will always find what you're looking for. But it doesn't mean it is in its like purest form.
Yeah.
Like, I want a boyfriend. You can find a boyfriend. I want a girlfriend. You can find... It doesn't mean that it's like a healthy one. Oh, I want a guy that'll make decisions for me. Okay, but some of those guys who make decisions for you might be abusive. Mm-hmm. It's like, it's not even like, I want to make a decision for you. It's like, I'm going to make a decision for you regardless of what you think about it.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's sometimes the problem with, you know, forcing. Of course, there's a baseline that you want in every person, but that could be one of the problems with like outwardly looking for it, especially if you're not mature enough to know what you're looking for. Like, you think you know what you're looking for, but what you're looking for might just be a character on a TV show that sounds cool to date, you know?
My criterion. You lucky person out there, you check my criteria. You are perfect enough for me, right?
Sure.
You're perfect enough. Yeah. Therefore, I shall bestow upon you the grace of being able to take me out on a date and buy me things. Right? And so this is what happens. And this person
got a little theater nerd there.
Is perfect enough. And if that person is perfect enough, sometimes what happens is we are willing to like bypass a lot of these conflicts. If this person does everything that I want them to do, there isn't a whole lot of conflict early on. So we get into the relationship 6 months later, 7 months later, 8 months later, a year later, 2 years later, and then the cracks start to show in the relationship. This person is perfect.
Do you identify with that?
With what?
So what I heard him say is, like, early in a relationship, like, you see like this person's meeting marks A, B, and C.
Okay.
And then, I'm not rephrasing it good.
Go ahead, just you're fine.
Basically, it sounded like, oh, like these first months are like, oh yeah, like it's okay, like there's these good things, and then you move on. And I'm like, sounds familiar.
Oh, for you, it's like, oh, there's a lot of red flags, but I like the green ones, so I'm gonna bypass the red ones.
No, I was thinking for you. And like at least the last 2.
When we started with them,
not me, with your last 2.
A lot of my exes, I have a problem where I don't want to be the guy that leaves because my father left my mother, and so I will overly force a relationship with somebody. Like, I think that was a problem I didn't realize, and so it wasn't like, oh, these are green flags that are being met. It was me knowing that this wasn't great, but me being like, no, I'm gonna stick through it.
Well, so that's why I was wondering if you were like feeling what he was saying, because he was like, okay, like, yeah, like these things like are okay.
Yeah, I was like, this is fine, it's not a big deal. And then it starts to grow and fester and become a problem. Like, yeah, absolutely. Sure.
But they do this stuff. And this creates a problem because sometimes what that creates is some kind of conflict.
But I will say it's never taken, I feel like, years. I feel like I've known very early on some issues, and when it comes to, I think like 3 months, you'll for the most part you'll know the problems.
Yeah.
You just stick them out for multiple years. Sometimes. You Hey, listen, it's all personal growth, right?
Which then either, since you've invested so much time in the relationship, you're willing to like kind of let that slide and let.
Can I say with him saying like a lot? I feel like both of us lately have been saying like a lot. Like
the word like?
Yeah, when I was rewatching our podcast to do clips, I noticed we were both we're like bombing it. I've been trying to reduce my time of saying that word.
Listen, it's something that I'm very self-conscious about because people like say it, and
I'm not trying to like insult you. We're both doing it. I'm trying to reduce it in my vocabulary.
It's how I talk, and I don't know if it is that like not a thing everywhere. Like I remember being in school and my teachers always telling us not to use the word like.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, well, I think it generally doesn't. I don't particularly care for that type of communication, but then I realized we were doing it a lot, so I'm trying not to use that word a lot because I do feel like it's associated with
being dumb.
Yeah, and not to be rude because I know neither of us are dumb. But I've been trying to get it out of my vocabulary, every other word and sentence. But I know that people say like a lot.
I hate when I say it a lot, so like you don't have to tell me because if I hear it, I'll think myself that I sound stupid, but I try not to focus on it either because then I'll be focusing on what I say and not be able to speak. So if you don't like how much I say like, I would just say to not watch me.
Fair enough. I just something popped into my head.
No, you triggered me. It's okay.
I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to trigger.
That's one of the things I hate people. If you don't have something, it's one thing to like have a disagreement and
nobody said anything about the words that we've been using. I noticed.
No. Because we had comments probably on our other channel more.
Sure.
And like now I forget what I was saying.
People will listen to the accent that you have, and they will think that you're unintelligent, and they'll try to express that you're stupid, even though you're very intelligent.
Yeah, and so like it just I lost what I was saying.
Okay,
basically,
sorry.
what I was getting at is suck my dick if you don't like the way I talk or what I have to say.
Fair enough.
That red flag behavior slide because this person is so perfect anyway. Or what happens is y'all end up in conflict, y'all end up breaking up, y'all end up separating in some way because y'all didn't sort of navigate that conflict because this person is perfect in so many ways. They're a doctor and they're tall and they're rich or they're beautiful and they've got big tits, whatever, maybe all of the above, right? And then since they have all of these things, they're not willing to compromise because they are worth so much that, hey, it's take it or leave it. If you can't handle me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best.
Yeah, I think that's super toxic. That is the biggest red flag, is not being willing to look at yourself internally and adjust to the partner that you're with. I feel like we both offer, for all our flaws, we both offer a profound amount of value to each other. And I don't want it to sound like I'm commodifying our relationship, but we both offer like a lot of.
What's that word?
Like basically relating it to like a financial exchange, like commodifying it. Like I was trying to say, I don't want people to think that I look at our relationship as like purely like this magical transactional, like very very emotionless thing. We both offer each other a lot in very positive ways that help us grow together. And the problem is when there are people who think that they're really good, they're too good, and they don't have to change it all. That's where you're going to have a miserable relationship because that person who's not willing to change for somebody in some ways, not like fundamentally at your core, but to me, if you're the type of person who's not willing to make compromises with your partner, then it sounds to me like you're not a person who's willing to listen to the needs of your partner and be empathetic to that and open the line for communication moving forward. So it's not even just that like, oh, you are I don't want to change too much. It's also like you're not willing to listen to somebody and grow with them emotionally. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that for somebody to be just like a post in cement and not move at all.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it.
Is like, that's just ridiculous, because even if your partner had a problem with something to you that you were like, this is part of who I am, like I don't want to change it, there are little ways you could tweak something about yourself to make another person more comfortable. And it doesn't have to be a partner. It could be work. It could be anything.
It's a setting a boundary and respecting other people's boundaries for sure.
And if it's something that like goes beyond, like if they're not willing, because even if somebody has a complaint, like they have to be willing to compromise on their end as well.
Yeah.
It's a very big, like complicated dance in order to get each other to a comfortable place with things.
Yeah.
But like you just have to be willing to do it.
Yeah.
It's a never-ending thing.
Yeah, you're always going to have conflict with your partner. That's why you need to respect your partner as an equal, because you're always going to be fighting back and forth, not in this active, horrible way, but you're always going to be boundary testing each other unintentionally. And blah, 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 blah. And you have to affirm your boundary, and you have to respect your partner's boundary. And you have to speak up for yourself, because people aren't going to do it on purpose. There's going to be things that somebody does. Like sometimes I get into the habit of being a lazy again, and you express yourself, and and that's going to be something that's probably relationship long, me being a little lazy. And you say, stop being lazy, and I go, shit, and I start getting my shit together. And there's things that you do that are the same, where I'm like, hey, we got to start doing this again. You know? Sucking my dick. I love it.
So all these kinds of attitudes start to emerge when people sort of like check a bunch of boxes. And it really delays this idea of conflict to later in the relationship, which then means that people will sink in a lot of time, and then this person ends up being not perfect.
Yeah.
And so if you're someone who loves all these green flags and you end up with breaking up with someone after 2 years because they're not perfect in some way, what do you end up doing? You end up adding one more thing to the list, right? The problem wasn't that I can't handle conflict resolution, or that we couldn't navigate things, or I couldn't compromise and maybe lower my standards. Oh my God, that sounds so bad. The internet is telling me that I never have to compromise or lower my standards in any way. That's not the problem.
That's so interesting. I didn't realize that. I get what he's saying. Where if you're not willing to engage in conflict resolution and have a compromised relationship where you grow together, that turns into like your own red flag with the other person. It's not that like am I being stupid? I'm sounding dumb.
I'm not understanding him. I'm not trying to be a jerk.
You should listen more.
The way that we're consuming this content is like,
gotcha.
I'm having a hard time
compromise and maybe lower my standards. Oh my God, that sounds so bad. The internet is telling me that I never have to compromise or lower my standards in any way. That's not the problem. The problem is that this person was perfect in 6 out of 6, but I missed number 7. And so now what I'm going to do is look for 7 out of 7. And I really want someone who does this. And then the whole cycle repeats. This person is even more perfect. You know, how do you handle conflict?
What they're just saying is that there's times where you have particular green flags that you're trying to check off, and then you go into a relationship, and then if it doesn't work out, because you're not somebody that can engage in conflict resolution, you just add another necessity of a green flag. Like, you need to have this now because you weren't able to work through that red flag. Yeah, I know that I pause a lot. I have to, you know, we consume differently. You like to listen to the whole thing. I like to pause a little bit. And so I know that probably disrupted your ability to engage. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I think also something he was saying is like, basically it gives the concept of like, you're never the problem.
Yeah. You have to realize that like you will be a big part of the problem. There's behaviors I used to engage in like, years ago where I didn't even realize that they were problematic. That's one of the things about people is they're just stupid. You know?
The other thing too is like, I don't know, like what could even be a list of things you're looking for in a partner? I don't think I ever had
I've never made a list. Yeah.
But also like for me, like this is like from a really sad place. I was just always so desperate.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm a weird in between where I was always so desperate for a relationship and to feel loved by somebody else. But like I also like wouldn't, I like weirdly, I don't know, I wouldn't like I settled, but like I also wouldn't, because like you said before, like if you want a boyfriend you could get a boyfriend.
Yeah.
Like my list is very short. You know, I wasn't like willing to take anything I could get. So I guess I do have a list of standards that I'm looking for.
Sure.
I don't know. It's just weird. But like we, like I know a while ago you were talking about somebody that you know, and like something they mentioned about finding in a partner is like liking the same sport or the same team or something. And I was like, just like, wow, like that's so interesting.
Oh yeah.
You
so
know?
Two things to that point. The first point is the reason that I think that you would struggle to find somebody is because you have you're very aggressive, not in a bad way, but you're an atypical strong woman. So you're intimidating for guys that are just looking to fuck. Because you're very attractive. To the other point, I don't
think that's what it is. I'm not easy.
You're not easy. You're not approachable.
Like I'm not gonna give it up. Like I'm not gonna just meet you up. Like I'm afraid of like STIs.
Yeah, you're smart. To the other point, I was talking about how what bonded us together is we went through like I think a reasonable amount of struggle. And I remember hearing somebody talk about like, oh, I hope they liked my favorite sports team. And I'm like, for me, I get it on the one hand, but on the other hand, if that's one of your kind of make or breaks, I feel that maybe you're not struggling enough in life to find a partner. I think it could be very difficult for people to have deep emotional connections if they don't have struggle. So,
sorry. The other thing I wanted to say is like it's like weird, but I feel like if like you want something in a partner, because he was saying like, oh, if I have 7 check marks I'm trying to get, and this person has 6 out of the 7, so they're not good, I'm gonna move on. I'm not saying that you could change a person, but if you have like a good relationship, I feel like you can
move through, you can compromise on it.
You could compromise, but also like bring those things that you want to your partner to a certain degree, or you'll at least find them differently.
Yeah, you could find a different way to satisfy the feeling that you need. I understand what you're saying. We've had moments where something that the other person was doing was bothering us, and we talked about it, and we understood why the other person was engaging in that behavior, and they're no longer problems for us anymore. Sometimes it's just about talking about what issue you have with a particular topic, and somebody explaining it to you, and you going, "Oh, I get it now." And I think that's very fundamental. That has to do with like anything. It's like when you're at work. Let's say you're at work, and your job is to do a particular thing, and your boss tells you to do something that's stupid. Do something like this, and it takes longer. It's less efficient. It's dog shit, and you get angry. Now, let's say your boss said, "I need you to do it like this because." We have a regional manager coming in next month, and it's stupid, and I know, but it needs to be done even though it's not efficient because they'll notice. All of a sudden, you're like, I understand now. You've communicated it to me, and I respect that you respect me enough to talk to me about it, and so now this isn't a problem anymore. I'm going to do it because I get it. And that's something that we could all use in our relationship, communicating. Respect the other person enough to actually be able to explain yourself to them and tell them like, here's why I want you to do something because it makes me feel better. And then it might be more work, and they're like, oh, I get it. Because for them, they might be just parsing that with their life experience, and they're like, if I ask somebody to do this, it would be because I'm just being a dickhead. But you want me to do this because it's something that means very much, that it means something to you, and you need to have it done. So it's like one of those things.
Oh, I handle conflict great. And then you go 3 years in, and then everything falls apart, and now you're running out of time because you're getting older, and now you really need to find the perfect person because you don't have time to wait around and screw around.
I would have just been fucking blasting girls until I died, I think, if I didn't find the right one.
I think that if we didn't get together, I feel like you would have been in like the literal same position.
Right now, absolutely, yeah, I would have just been still
crazy.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate that I found you.
This is a problem. The second big problem with green flags and people who are looking for the perfect person is that we're oftentimes looking for that person to fix something in our lives. We're looking for that person to be the antidote to a problem that we've got. So a simple example of this is like, let's say finances, right? So I'm looking for a partner who can support me, which is totally fine. Like, I think it's totally fine for one partner to financially support another. But one of the biggest mistakes that I've seen in relationships, and if you want to know,
I feel like if you're looking for somebody specifically to financially support you, you're gonna bypass all the miserable parts just to have that satisfied. Which maybe was a problem in some of the relationships I've had, because I was the one who was willing to step up and work 40 to 60 hours a week to help them go through their shit. And then at that point, they might have felt like either, oh, I can take advantage of this guy and keep dating him because he's paying for all my shit and become complacent. Or they might have been afraid to leave because then they're like, oh, I would have to work again. Like, you know what I mean? That makes sense? Okay.
What leads to toxic relationships? It's when one person is deriving something out of the relationship that is beyond what the relationship should give. So I should get some amount of love and esteem from leads to toxic relationships. It's when one person is deriving something out of the relationship that is beyond what the relationship should give. So I should get some amount.
So it's like when somebody is getting something out of a relationship that's not at the place that the relationship is at. So like when you treat a girlfriend like a wife. Kind of was talking about. You understand?
I was like I said, I'm not trying to. It's just
okay.
like
No,
it's
you said you didn't understand it. So
yeah, it's just I'm having a hard flow with the video. That's it.
You want me to slow it down to regular speed?
No, it's not that. Like we said, we have our differences in how we watch it.
Gotcha. Okay,
so
okay,
this is
okay,
just
yeah,
I'm having a hard time following everything you're saying.
Gotcha.
Of love and esteem from my relationship. But if relationship should give. So I should get some amount of love and esteem from my relationship. But if I have core self-esteem problems and can't sit by myself or have really crippling loneliness, and I latch on to this person in a relationship to fix all of my loneliness problems or self-esteem problems, then that relationship is doomed. Doesn't mean that it can't get undoomed, right? Because those problems can be worked on. But
it's interesting because now when we first started dating, we were able to be more independent, and now we're like very much like attuned to each other.
Yeah, but I don't think that's what he's saying.
He's not what he's saying. I'm just saying that he's talking about people who are using a relationship to satisfy their self-esteem problems. We weren't doing that. But like now we can't really be apart or else we get upset.
Yeah. I love you too.
This is something, I mean, maybe y'all have like worked with someone or dated someone who's very clingy, right? And what's going on with clingy? This is someone who requires you for their own self-esteem. And these people will really drain you and drain you and drain you because you don't have to demonstrate just your love, right? You don't have to demonstrate to them that you love them. You have to make up for the lack of love from every other corner of the world. And that's
maybe I feel like I don't think that clinginess is necessarily a bad thing.
I don't think that either of us have exactly experienced
that
what
before?
he's describing.
Okay.
But I totally hear what he's saying.
Okay, because I'm like, we're clinging to each other. You're clinging to me. I like it.
Yeah,
it makes me feel good about myself.
I'm having one of the things I'm having a hard time talking about this in ways that are not like too specific.
Gotcha,
like based on like your relationships, because that's not like there's things that like don't need to be said on the internet.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to, because I have thoughts about this.
Sure.
But but basically my thought about this is like, this is not even, sorry.
You go ahead.
I'm not trying to overshare things. Long story short, I don't think that either of us have experienced this in our relationships. But
yeah, just to be clear with everybody else, it's not something that's relevant to our relationship. It's something that would be relevant. We've tried to set a boundary that we're not going to go into detail about our exes because we feel like that's unprofessional to do.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like this, like you didn't. I don't think you experienced this with your exes.
No, I didn't. But that's what the issue you are having talking about some of the things because you don't want to get too specific about.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Just
So
letting people know I'm communicating to them why we can't fully communicate everything we want to say.
yeah, and so but I don't know. I feel like I've interacted with other people like this, where
Okay.
if you're not blowing smoke up their ass constantly, like
Yeah.
it's the end of the world.
Gotcha. Yeah.
You know, the person that always needs positive reinforcement. I feel like more than anything, you see this on social media in general.
Yeah.
People always
it's like
looking
a new
for
thing.
like affirmation of others.
Yeah, and it's a fine line because affirmation is a good thing, but sometimes it gets too, I guess, parasitic. That affirmation. So I get that.
that's too much for one person to handle. And so what I've started to see more and more is as people get these really laundry list of requirements, what people are starting to do is almost say like, hey, I'm not going to fix this for myself. I'm just going to find a partner who can fix it for me. And so whether it's financial independence or it's like,
Well, I think a big problem with this as well is if you're looking for a partner to satisfy all the problems you have instead of working on your problems, not only does that communicate to me that you're not willing to work on yourself, but it communicates that you cannot grow as a person. And being in a relationship is about growing together. You find somebody at a stage in life, and then you need to be able to grow together to stay together. And if you can't grow, that's why people break up when they get out of high school, when they're like high school sweethearts, because they grow apart, which is natural. But if you want to be in a long-term relationship and in a healthy relationship, you need to be able to grow with that person so that you have, you're congruent when it comes to the way that you evolve together.
Yeah, and that's what he's saying is that like if you're someone who's looking for a partner to just solve all your problems,
Yeah.
like that becomes a toxic relationship.
What I'm saying as well is that other person might be like the kind of person that can still grow and they're looking to grow. And you're not, so they're growing apart from you because you're not working on yourself with them. While, like, I've been in relationships where I've been trying to be very self-aware about the negatives that I bring to the table, and so I will change productively. Like, okay, this is a problem. This is a problem. I have a problem with this, and this. I'm going to heavily work on that. One of those things was my anger and dealing with that, and I worked on that substantially. But the person I was with wouldn't work on their problem, so. When we first started dating, I was probably more problematic, but I was very, very adamant about changing for the better and being a better person and allowing my partner to say, I don't like this, this, and this, and this. And then I started to become less problematic because I was trying to grow forward while the other person was just not. They were just being a lump.
Yeah, you were always the problem.
And then that turns into now I'm always a problem. And every little thing that I do is now a problem. And then that starts eating into your self-esteem. You know,
I need someone who's going to be available 24/7 and, refuses to go out at night or like is always going to hang out with me first. I need someone who's going to meet all of my emotional needs all the time. These relationships are doomed to fail even if you find what you're looking for. There's one last really interesting thing about emotionally turbulent relationships and why human beings are more attracted to them. This kind of explains why you can't get away from your toxic ex, right? You know your toxic ex is
because they give good dick. If we weren't dating anymore, we would still be fucking. But that'd be so sad.
Like in a different world. If we got together without all of the turbulence we experienced, I think we may not. We would not be together.
Don't think so?
But I think we would still mess around every once in a while.
Yeah, we would be fucking.
I would probably cheat on my new boyfriends with you.
Jesus Christ.
You know?
You're so toxic. Holy fuck. You're crazy.
I would. Think about that. I would.
I know. I probably would too. I don't like to admit that. I don't like admitting it.
It doesn't matter. We're married.
I know, but it's
not like it's going to happen.
But it's not going to happen. But it's one of those things where it's like under the wrong circumstances, I would be like a huge cheater.
Yeah, and I'm a big bitch. I still am.
We would be talking to other people and then we would be fucking still.
Yeah.
You know, so that's what I'm saying. I'm not proud of that. I'm not proud.
A little spice.
We got very lucky. I feel like we got so very lucky in our relationship, and it's like I don't like admitting that. Like, oh yeah, I would be a real fucking scumbag if we wasn't. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying.
Add for you in a lot of different ways. And so sometimes we're confused. Why don't I just stop seeing this person? Why do I respond to their texts? I know it's bad for me, but I can't help myself. So it turns out that there's a lot of really interesting neuroscience and physiology about what attracts us to our toxic exes. So there's a really fascinating study that was done where they had people dating. And the only difference between dates was that one was on a bridge that was made of stone and the other is on a bridge that was like rickety. And what they sort of found is that the emotional fear of the rickety bridge made people fall in love with each other more. That anytime you're in...
How do you even do a study like that?
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense to me, but okay.
In an emotionally unstable environment, it causes people to bond. And so one really interesting thing...
that makes sense to me, fundamentally. Being in an unstable environment, causing people to bond makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
The bridge doesn't make sense to me. But on everything else, we were in a very unstable situation together, and I think that made us bond.
I mean, I'm curious to what the actual study looked like, but I guess that's the best way to... And the least harmful way to introduce a stressful
scenario
environment
without heavily curating their life in a fucking simulator.
Yeah, and it's not emotionally dangerous. It's just that physical danger.
Yeah, it's ooh.
It's almost like the video that we watched earlier with the love surge. You know, it's like something stupid, but then it's turning. You're doing something ironically, but then it's turning into a bond.
Yeah, okay, I get what you're saying. Yeah, I kind of get what you're saying.
Red flag relationships, and I know this is true of my relationship. It's true of just about all my patients. Is that early turbulence in the relationship creates actually a lot of negative emotion, and then you'll kind of bind together and work through it. Yeah. And then you learn something really, really interesting, which is okay, when I'm feeling bad and when they're feeling bad, we're actually a team and we can work through this problem together.
Yeah, makes sense.
And it's also really fascinating because the same principle is why in that emotionally turbulent relationship, it actually provokes attraction, which is sort of why there's this idea that, sometimes you're attracted to dangerous people and that person's a bad boy or bad girl or avoid crazy.
It's a really good first date idea, I think, is to go into an abandoned warehouse or an abandoned building that has been condemned for a fire hazard and have a picnic in there because it might collapse. Best first date idea. What do you think? It's a good idea.
Ladies, right? So bros will say this kind of stuff in locker rooms and things like that. They'll use other words, which I'm not going to use here today. And there's some truth to that because there's actually really cool studies that show that emotional turbulence leads to bonding between people. This is also why we see things like trauma bonding. This is also why people fall in love so easily at rehab. I've seen this time and time and time again.
I didn't know that was a thing. People do that? Well, I guess he just said it, so.
And the one rule that I encourage all of my patients to do in rehab is don't fall in love. And at the same time, the number of patients that I've seen, what was the beginning of your relationship like? Well, my partner was addicted to IV heroin, was shooting up.
Well, I was saying, why wouldn't you want to fall in love what did he say? He said in therapy or something, right? Or in rehab. But I guess it makes sense because you guys are at your lowest low, and you might just bring each other back to that point, I guess would be the biggest issue.
I think that also, part of... I don't know if it's AA or NA or whatever. Narcotics Anonymous is NA.
Yeah.
But part of the rules in sobriety is no relationships for so many amount of months. And
interesting. I guess it makes sense.
I don't know the true reason because I don't I'm not involved in that professionally, but like having a new relationship, and especially a new relationship, like all of your effort goes into that. Your happiness is fun. Like you need to, and that's what he was saying earlier too. Like you need to focus on yourself and you need to be good before you go to somebody else.
Gotcha. Because then you're just using them to subsidize your unhappiness, and that's a long-term, that's a disaster in the long term.
And if you're in a recovery process, like you're going to be using or like engaging in your harmful coping skills when things are bad. So like if you do get into a new relationship and everything is good, like everything's gonna feel great and you're like, oh, like I'm fine.
Yeah.
When you still kind of need to just stay in the down and work through being in the down without your negative coping skills.
Right.
You know what I'm
and then
saying?
you need to build new ones. Gotcha. That makes sense.
Up every week and was stealing money from me. And I was like, why didn't you leave them? Well, now they're sober. Y'all have been married for 20 years. So 25 years, you've got a 20-year-old kid, an 18-year-old kid, and a 14-year-old kid. Oldest is off in college. Second one's applying. They have like this awesome marriage, right? So at the end of the day, I know it's kind of weird, but I encourage you to really think about the impact of red flags on your relationship. I want you to think about the impact of green flags on your relationship. Is this the kind of situation where I'm looking for perfect, I'm looking for perfect, I'm looking for perfect, and something always falls apart? Are you discounting a large part of the population because they meet some criteria? And if you really think about it, you're losing out on something that's really important, which is finding a partner who's willing to change, who's willing to compromise, who cares about you enough to change a fundamental aspect of their life.
Yeah, and you need to be willing to change and compromise, but also not too much. You have to be willing to compromise, but also you have to set you have to set boundaries. You have to communicate those things too, because there's an ebb and flow. You don't want to change too much or give too much of yourself up to that person, because then you could be inviting them to have too much of a decision over over you, the way that you interact. And just, I mean, I've been there before where, you could be with somebody and you change a lot for them. And then now they're so in your head that anytime you make a minor mistake, they can overinflate that and really break you down over it.
And that's probably the kind of person you want to end up with. As a disclaimer, I'm not saying that y'all should chase red flags. I'm not saying that y'all should if there's someone who's physically abusive or emotionally abusive, that you should continue to date them. I'm not saying that red flags are good, and the more that you have, the better off your relationship is going to be. What I'm saying is that I'm noticing an increasing trend of people looking for perfect. And the more that they look for perfect, the more that they delay conflict resolution. And if you really look at what leads to prognostically very successful relationships, it's the ability to navigate conflict and compromise. And oftentimes, as we discount people with red flags, we don't give people a chance to change and to grow and to whatever. That's actually shooting us in the foot. So it's just something for y'all to think about and hopefully balance a little bit. If y'all are interested in more, we actually have a whole resource pack on communication in relationships. And we also have a couple of really solid YouTube videos that sort of dive into a couple of these things a little bit more. So check them out.
Okay. Well, what do you think? You like that video?
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
You like that I was babbling through it all the whole time?
I love you.
I love you. That's probably something you would need to pre-watch.
That was a video.
That was actually
I wasn't not
I'd say.
understanding what he was saying. Like what he was saying, was this sounds negative, but it was kind of basic. But I think that it was some things people needed to hear. Like you said in this video, I need to listen to everything and then have my thoughts.
Yeah.
And so just the interrupting his lines of thoughts made me distracted.
I was saying
this
might be a video because a lot of times when we do these topics, they're like bullshit. They don't really matter. But this one was probably something that you might have needed to pre-watch, and then I would watch.
We have a discussion.
Yeah. So